Once we found the right developer, we then felt that this was something that we could build. And equally, it was as much about there not being many competitors in the market space. It's a very limited space for people that do dark web scanning.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Podcast.
Extended interview.
Hi, I'm Tony Capewell, owner and developer of MSP Dark Web.
And I'm Neil Renwick, also from MSP Dark Web, on the front end dealing with MSPs across the world.
And thank you both for joining me. It's been a pleasure following what you've been doing with MSP Dark Web over the last, I don't know, you'll tell me how long it's been, but it feels like it's been many months. Tony and Neil, of course, we worked together with the MSP Marketing Edge program, and you first told me about this idea. I think it was getting on for over a year ago, and watching you turn it from an idea into something that is not just now sellable, but actually a growing number of MSPs are picking up has been an absolute pleasure. So I don't want to jump too far ahead. Let's just first of all establish who you are and what you do, because actually your day job or your previous day job was you guys own an MSP.
So I've been working in the MSP space for over 20 years now. And we run an MSP in Milton Keynes. Running that business and building the business are more around cybersecurity over the last sort of 3-4 years. We've found that dark web scanning was a very limited product availability. Through lots of frustrations, we've designed, developed and built a dark web scanner from the ground up over the last 12 years.
12 months, rather. I think 12 years would be...
12 months,
anyone could do it over 12 years, but 12 months is quite impressive.
It seems like 12 years.
I bet it does feel like 12 years, yes. In fact, I've watched you visibly age over the time that you've been doing this. Now, Neil, I don't want you to name names, so I don't want to know which products you were using before, but what were the deficiencies that you found, the things that the sort of the established solutions out there weren't quite giving you?
Well, first of all, the quality of the data was the initial problem. You do a prospecting report using the dark web scanner, and then your client would say, well, that was from 2016. What's the point of giving me data from 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Obviously, the FaceTime, the ability to be able to speak to somebody at these providers about an issue, a problem, or even offer suggestions as to how they could tweak the platform. We were never able to do that. And the other big problem is that we were tied in both to a long contract and quite a heavy minimal monthly spend. So they were the pain points that we sat down and started to look at from an MSP's point of view. And that is how we started to try and design the new product and platform.
So, Tony, I've known you for a few years, quite a few years now. It's getting on for probably about 6 or 7, isn't it? And you've always struck me as the entrepreneurial type. But I think a good entrepreneur knows when not to pursue an opportunity as much as they know when to pursue an opportunity. So you clearly had these pain points. You clearly had, not quite the right service out there. When did the realization come into your mind that you were going to have to build your own solution?
Not naming any names, but our experience with the last platform that we used for dark web scanning ended in a legal battle. So it was a very raw subject, and I felt that dark web scanning was definitely something that should be part of any MSP's cybersecurity stack to try and alleviate any of those security risks that a customer can come across. So it was a long period of time that was spent researching, trying to find developers that could build the product for us. And once we found the right developer, we then felt that this was something that we could build. And equally, it was as much about there not being many competitors in the market space. It's a very limited space for people that do dark web scanning.
Yes, I bet it is. And we'll talk about the actual product itself and what makes it different, what its USP, its unique selling proposition is. We'll talk about that in a little while. But when you first sat down to create it, was it easy for you because of your experience of being MSPs and having, and Neil, this question's for you, so that your experience of being MSPs and having looked at other people's services, did that make it easier for you to plan, right, this is what we want it to do and this is why we want it to work that way?
That has actually been the key point, that we've been able to have a good kind of an open-hearted chat with the MSPs, and they're feeling the same pain points that we were feeling. When we decided to sit down and put these points on paper and make sure that our platform, our product and our services would deal with those pain points, we were doing it from an MSP's point of view. And yeah, face to face, we've already seen that with the MSPs that we've been speaking to.
Tony, let's delve into what it does. So we all know what dark web scanning is. What makes MSP dark web different?
The key element to dark web scanning is obviously the data and how relevant that data is. So if you're returning data that is 4, 5, 6 years old to the customer, that is kind of irrelevant, because the chances are they would have changed their password on that account within the last 5, 6 years. So sourcing data that is as relevant as it can be. We do have a lot of historic data, but we've got a functionality within the system that allows the MSP to filter that out before they start doing live monitoring.
So they don't have to just deal with the old data; they could deal with the up-to-date data. Let me interrupt you there and be the devil's advocate, which is surely all of the services. So you and all of your competitors, you're all getting the same data from the same data sources.
I would disagree. So our data source has never embarked on a partnership in this form before. So they pride themselves on providing the world's largest breach data database. We are getting much better results in comparison to some of the competitors that we've been, during the demo, been asked to compare against. The way that they collect the data is not just through automated bots, which a lot of the other competitors do. We have humanized people that are going out and physically trying to get that breach data and purchase that data so that we can then have it in our breach data, which is what results in the published date being more recent to when the breach occurred rather than a longer period of time.
And Neil, from the MSPs that are already taking this service and that you're speaking to, is this something of commercial value to them? Because I know that that's the other wider question about dark web monitoring, again, just being devil's advocate, which is it really a sustainable thing long term? Is it something that an MSP can buy and actually make margin from?
Yeah, the two elements of including it within the package have been expressed clearly as to what we were already doing as an MSP. So we were selling a single domain coverage for anything upwards of £100 per domain. The MSPs have also come back to us and said, yes, I'm going to be using it both ways, including it within the stack and selling it as a standalone security product, which is what we were doing previously as MSP. And it has been a mixture of both. So if you're paying an equivalent of £8 per domain and you're able to sell it at £100 per domain per month, the maths talks for itself as such. There's a good profit margin to be made there.
In your own MSP, I assume you're selling the MSP dark web service, and what kind of margin are you making reselling your own service? Because theoretically you guys should be absolutely the best at it because you've built it to be sold.
We have dark web scanning included in our top package, managed service package, and we include that at a much more reduced rate. And then customers can buy it as a separate add-on to some of the smaller packages that we sell, or as a one-off. And we sell, as Neil said, anything from £100 to £150 per domain per month. So the margins are quite high.
Here we are then, just on YouTube with the extended part of the interview. And do you know what? What you guys have achieved is absolutely amazing. So when did you first have that realization? We've got to do this, and actually not just that we've got to do it, but we're going to do it. When did that happen?
I think the idea came around sort of January, February last year, 2021. Which I put out to Neil as an idea. And I then had to spend some time putting that into some kind of visual design that we could then say, right, this is definitely something that we can put together. So probably about a year ago was the start process. And I think we started development in April last year, after getting the design together and finding the initial developer that started the project for us. We now have a different one, but that's another story.
And you went to beta, was it November last year?
Was it November? November last year we went into beta. So we had beta running for about a month.
Okay, so about 8 months of hardcore development then. Neil, when Tony said to you, we should do this, here's the visualization of what it will look like, what was your response? Was it sort of head in hands? Was it a heart attack? What was your kind of feeling about it?
Tony's an IT specialist who likes to be at the very front line of new technology, new security, and he will upgrade and update when it's needed or even before it's needed. And that's what I've learned in these 6 years together. So never get too comfortable with anything that you're doing with Tony, because he'll be coming out with something better pretty quickly. So I'm going to be honest, the first conversation I had with my wife after that conversation was, it's going to be a busy 12 to 15 months. So, but we'll go for it because I believe in him. He's got some brilliant ideas and he is a genius in the MSP area.
That's the point, Tony. You're supposed to go, oh, no.
You know that. You know that because you've been working with him now for 7 years. So he is one of the best at what he does.
Yeah.
Now, the problem that I found in the first 3 months was finding that best data partner, dark web data partner, because we must have done 7 or 8 trials and studies and research with different providers across the world, because we knew that the backbone of it was going to have to be the best quality dark web data. And that was tedious. But I think it was worth it because we know that we've got the best. We don't need to worry about, looking for a new partner.
Yeah.
We're 100% sure about that.
It's interesting you say tedious, and please don't go anywhere near identifying your partner, because I think that's a major commercial advantage for you. But really, this whole project hinged on you finding that quality partner. So did you know that there was someone out there and it was just a case of persuading them to do business with you, or did you not know at the start that there was that quality of data available?
Yeah, we didn't know. There was many laying in bed at night thinking about, right, where can we go, where can we look, where can we find this kind of data, and we did go down 2 avenues, which turned out not to be the right partner for this service and providing the data. And it was just a lot of searching on the internet, a lot of searching over many days, many nights, trying to find the right people. And the partner that we've now found, this is a new stream for them of revenue, which they had never even thought about doing. And we've managed to. It was a very long period of time having conversations with them backwards and forwards. But we feel we've definitely found the right partner, and they are 100% behind us in getting this off the ground. So
that's brilliant. So persistence. How many times do we talk, on the podcast, or when, any time you and I are talking, Tony, about persistence and the power of just keeping going. Let's talk about development. So you alluded to, I think, Neil, you alluded to the fact that you're on your second developer now. And again, don't name names. It's just so much easier to talk about things when no one can be identified. But you outsourced development, Neil, and was that the right thing to do from day one? So if you went back and started again, would you do exactly what you did a year ago?
Yes, I think we would do exactly what we did. We have had to make an adjustment with the exact people that are doing the development now, but we'd do the same because it was right financially, and it was also right in the quality of the developers. So one thing is this was brand new for me. You got to remember, this was a completely new area. So one thing that I've realized is that it's one thing to create a platform, to have somebody who's got the skills to create it, but something that Tony's been mentioning continuously is it's not only about the creation, it's about keeping that platform afloat, up to date, secure above all things, and moving with the times. So you got to make sure, and that's why we had to make the change halfway through the development process, which went well, really, to somebody who was going to guide a team that would be able to be, alongside us long term. It wasn't going to be something that would turn around and we need to fix something on the platform and we can't trust in our team to do that. So that's also a huge peace of mind now, knowing that we've got that in place now. I think that's a really good point about the way we've gone about it.
Because you're not developers yourselves, so presumably you've had to place a lot of trust in this team and also make sure that they've documented everything, to the highest possible standards along the way.
another big decision when doing something like this is what language to develop it in. So there was a lot of research that went into finding the right type of language to develop this platform in, to make it, because of the amount of data that is in there, it needs to be something that is super quick. So that decision was after, again, lots of research, became React, which, if those that don't know, React is the product of our best friend's Facebook. And it was then a case of trying to find the developer that was a full stack developer, not just front end. So someone that knew React, knew SQL. But it's that in itself was another headache along the path. But we've now, the developers that we've now got working for us, one of them we've now employed full time. So they're now on board and doing the maintenance and updates in the back end for us on a month to month basis. So it's worked out quite well.
Neil, let's talk finally on the development before we move on to a couple of other subjects. What would you say was your highest high, and what would you say was your lowest low during the development?
During the development, my lowest low was horrendously late Friday night meetings, staring at screens full of code on a Zoom meeting and being expected to understand certain parts of it. That was when I finally tucked into my Friday night Chinese, I really felt like I deserved it because it had been a very long day. So that was a tough one. Tony just kept forgetting that my coding level wasn't the same as his and the developers. So that happened quite a lot, and they were low times. I haven't told him that yet, but he knows it now. And then the high, I'm going to say the high was the first 3 or 4 demonstrations to MSPs, because when I finally, that's my area, the education side and the sales side and the marketing, it was just beautiful to see their reaction, because you're not selling them something they don't need or don't want. It's a warm conversation, and they're turning around and saying, "I just, I've been searching for something like this for ages. I've been waiting for this product to come out." When you hear that as a provider, you're turning yourself into their partner, which is what we're looking to do. So that's been the high point. Once we've switched from developing to talking to them about the product and showing it off, that's been massive for me. I'm very enthusiastic about the progress and where we're going from here.
Tony, I want to talk to you about distractions. So you're a very entrepreneurial kind of person. I have a similar mindset and outlook, and you and I have had some very interesting conversations about opportunities and entrepreneurial stuff. And I think certainly I find, with an established business that's doing well, I have to curtail my imagination. I have to take all those, that's a good idea. Someone should do that. I could do that. And I have to take it now and I have to put it in a box. Because if I don't dedicate, the majority of my energy to what we're doing here, then I know that there's a risk that the business that we're building here will suffer. Was that a thought for you? Was that a risk factor for you? Or were you just so focused on the opportunity and the timing, the opportunity to do something better, that you weren't too worried about the risk to the MSP?
I think there's always that scare that if you try and delve into something else, your time is going to be split. But what we tried to do in the early stages of designing and development was to do this out of hours from the day-to-day work of the MSP. We're only a very small MSP, so there's only myself and Neil that run the business, so we are quite hands-on still. We're hoping that with the development of the dark web and hopefully the success of that I can then can help us grow the MSP even bigger. But I think we've been quite fortunate in being able to discuss plans and work with the developers out of the day-to-day of the MSP, which is kind of, although it's been quite long days, I think that's worked quite well. And now we've kind of in the last sort of stage of the development and the launch, we've been sort of just fitting it in between bits and pieces throughout the day. I think COVID has probably been a bit of a help in the fact that we certainly not in the first stage of COVID, but sort of in the latter stages were quite quiet. People were just ticking along at home. some of our customers had lots of staff on furlough. So our workload was diminished slightly, which gave us a bit of free time. But I think that's just a fortunate timings of situation. But yeah, it's
And Tony, going forward, obviously you've now got two businesses to drive. So again, without getting too caught up in the detail, what's your big picture plan for, something that's in its embryonic stages, which is what MSP.web is. So you've got a viable product, you've got a load of MSPs that have bought it, but it's still essentially a brand new business. How do you drive that while continuing to drive a mature, solid MSP business?
There's, as well as myself and Neil, there is two other partners in the business, one of them being my partner. So she's come from a very much a sales background, and she is going to be focusing on calling MSPs around the globe, which she's been doing, and trying to book the demos in for Neil to do. And we're just in this early stage. It's kind of, we don't know what the future holds. The idea is to grow MSP.web as big as we possibly can. And I feel that in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, that's just going to mean all hands to the deck and just work like crazy to try and build that business. And hopefully that's going to help us grow the other business at the same time. So it's the next 6 months, I think, is going to be really exciting. Already the first 2 or 3 weeks of this year has seen every demo that we've done, and we've done about 30, everyone said they're going to buy the product. So it's been really positive feedback from the MSPs that we have spoken to. And I feel that as we start the sales process, which is just going to kick in the next week or so properly, as we start speaking to MSPs more and more around the world, that's just going to grow quickly. So it's kind of all hands to the deck, I think, until we feel that we're in a position, and then expand the sales team for MSP.web to then sort of handle that side of it. I don't really need to be involved in that, but just oversee it from the back end. So,
Okay. So essentially, to summarise that, you've put extra resource in, and you're planning to do the same. I have to say, you're very brave working with your other half. You really are. I've done that in the past, and it didn't end well.
She is very cautious about it, but we've given her the management of the sales side of the business, which is what she does and does really well. So.
Yeah, well, they say you work for a nutter, don't they? When they're thinking about your boss, and well, your other half. Now we could ask her about that. That's for sure. So, okay, final question for you, Neil. Obviously, you have been talking to lots and lots of other MSPs, and one of the wonderful side effects for you as the co-owner of an MSP is talking to other MSPs and actually having business conversations with them. What have you? I don't know if learned is the right word, but what have you discovered from that process of talking to other people about their business that you think would benefit other MSPs, and indeed has benefited your MSP business?
I think something that we've learned from working with you as well over the last five or 6 years is that it's not a sense of competitiveness. It's much more a sense of community. So we were saying, why are the demos taking so long? You're supposed to be 15, 20-minute demo. And I was always I've been on for 30, 45 minutes. Why? Well, when we watched them back, there's 15 minutes of chat about what are you guys doing? What products are you guys using? How have you found this? How have you found that? And it broadens not just ours, but everybody's horizons. Oh, have you tried this? So we've recommended, and we've also been receiving recommendations with the MSP side. So it's never like looking at somebody else especially if you're speaking to somebody in Miami or Texas or Australia, which we have been, but even local companies 20, 30 miles down the road, MSPs, they know where we are, we know where they are, but there's no competition. It's a sense of community. Try this, let's share this. The whole point of MSP.web is to provide other MSPs with that extra recurring monthly revenue, which we all want. And that I think for me has been a bit of an eye-opener. We're not really in competition. We will be at some stage, 3 people quoting for the same business. But really, this is an opportunity to share something that, as we're going to benefit from, all other MSPs that join us as a partner are definitely going to benefit from.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Neil and Tony, you've both been so generous with your time, not just with the normal interview, but with this extended interview as well. Tony, do you just want to finish off, recap? I know you did it earlier, but recap for us again, the USP, what's the main unique selling proposition of MSP Dark Web, and what's the website address to visit? Okay, so the main USP for our business is the data that we collect, the breach data being current, relevant, and truly actionable. There's no contracts, so it's a month-to-month rolling contract, and you can get to speak to us, unlike other dark web scanners. So if you're interested, you can book a demo via the website, and the website address is mspdarkweb.com.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Podcast.
Extended interview.